Thanks to you guys who are joining us here live, and if you're watching this after the fact, then thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions or anything, you can email us at support@aplos.com. But for those of you who are live during this webinar, you have the advantage of asking questions in real time. So as we go through this, use that question field that I pointed you to a couple minutes ago, and feel free to shoot me any questions as we go through this, as well as afterwards. We'll have kind of a Q&A session, so feel free to type anything in there, and then I will do my best to answer everything at the end. All right, so for today, what we are going through is a tour of Aplos Advanced Accounting. For those of you who have been around for a little while, you know that we have, for years now, had online accounting and donations management software geared towards nonprofits and churches. And typically, that software has suited a kind of small to medium-sized organization. Doesn't necessarily mean that large organizations couldn't use us, just means that the feature set was kind of geared more towards simplicity. But what we've done here in the past couple of months is actually built a higher tier of accounting, which means more features, more robust reporting, as well as a little bit higher price than what our previous packages were. So that's what we're going to take a look at here today. So for those of you who have been around Aplos for a while, you're going to see some new stuff. For those of you who have no exposure to Aplos, this is all going to be new stuff. So either way, we're having fun. So this here is our homepage here, and you can scroll through and kind of see a little bit about what we're about. But then up here, there's a little toggle here to go to our pricing page. Now this shows you the breakdown of what accounting products we have to offer. The first of which here is the starter package for $25 a month, and that includes the single user accounting software that we have. So this allows you to do fund accounting, which for many of you who know, that is something that's unique to nonprofits and churches. It's a very specific way of taking care of tracking your money. So that's what we specialize in. You can also link with your bank. You can put journal entries in. You can do check printing. You can create invoices, pay bills, do budgeting, all kinds of stuff, all for the $25 a month price point. The most popular package here is the $40 a month package, and that includes all of the same accounting, single user, as well as what we call contributions management. Now, this is being able to record or enter or have recorded your donations from your donors so that you can issue them contribution statements at the end of the year. So that, paired with the accounting side of stuff, makes sure that your organization is kept up to date with donations and any sort of financial transaction that might happen. So this upper tier, this advanced accounting that we're taking a look at here today, adds a number of features, including automatic recurring transactions, budgeting by fund, multiple AP and AR accounts, fixed assets and cost allocations is coming. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But then also in the reporting side, it adds some advanced reporting, 990 reporting, custom segment reporting, department, project, and campaign reporting, and a custom report builder. Now, all of that means nothing without being able to see it, so let's take a look. But that is where it starts here, is the $120 per month for the advanced accounting. And then again, that is for single user. So we'll talk about pricing here at the end of the webinar here today. But for now, let's take a look. So for any one of these packages that you want to take a look at, feel free to just take that button right there, and that will ask for your email address and a password. Once you have put that in and validated that, you will go through a quick onboarding tutorial of just kind of, here's an account, here's a transaction, just to kind of familiarize yourself with an accounting software. Once you're done with that, then you will land here, which is our dashboard. Now, the dashboard here is where you land whenever you log in, and this shows kind of a high-level snapshot of your financials in your organization. So your total cash balance, you've got a cash balance chart here, so you can kind of scroll through and see how you're doing over time. You've also got income and expense graphs, and you can customize this dashboard to show pretty much anything that you like. And then on the left-hand side here is where you move to the other areas of Aplos. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take you on a couple different little tours here, one of which is just kind of a overall navigation, just to kind of show you how you move around the screens. Then I'll kind of briefly explain the kind of high-level accounting that we're accomplishing here. But then I'm going to dive into the things that are specific to the advanced Aplos tier, if that's okay with you guys. So for general just kind of navigation, again, here's the dashboard. And then on the left-hand side here, you have the menu where you can go to the other areas of Aplos. The settings section is where you can update your organization's info. You can put in your address, your phone number, your contact email, as well as manage your users. So here's where you can add more people to have access to your Aplos account. You can also manage your subscription, which we'll talk about at the end of today. And then you got a couple other things here, one of which is the activity log. So you can dive into kind of who's done what and what actions have been taken in your software, as well as file box, where you can upload pictures, organization documents, really anything you need to store. It's just a file storage system that you can use. The last one here is partners, which we're going to have some partners coming down the line here with different features that you can snap into Aplos. So that will be coming at a later date. So that's settings. Below settings, we have contacts. And the contacts section here is just your big people database or your big address book in Aplos. So anybody that you've entered as a donor or as a, in an accounting transaction, they will end up here. And so you can click on them and manage their information. So their email, their phone number, their address, as well as any dates or custom fields that you want to track. So if you have something that's, not an email or a phone or an address, but just, something else that you want to track, their favorite color or anything like that, you can create a custom field for it and then enter the data so that you can run a report on that contact. And then up at the top, we also have groups. So you can group people into 1099 vendors or board members or buddies or, members, whatever you want to do. However you want to group those contacts, you can. And then that's where you can manage the custom fields as well. And then below contacts, we have reports. And then below reports, we have accounting and donations. So these are the two products that are offered in the advanced accounting kind of package. You've got the accounting stuff, but then you have some donation stuff as well. So I'm going to first go through the accounting. So when you click on accounting, you've got this little sub menu here, one of which is advanced settings, which you can just turn on or off, other functionality. We'll come back to that. But then you have accounts. Now, any accounting software that you use kind of goes through three, primary functions. The first of which is setting up your accounting structure. So your chart of accounts, your tags, your budget, your starting balances, just kind of laying the foundation for your accounting software. It's kind of step one. Step two is using then that structure in transactions. So now you would go into the transactions field here, and through a number of different screens, you can enter transactions that impact your bank account. You can record accounts payable, accounts receivables. You can record, bank payments, bank transfers, any sort of money moving in, out, or within your organization would be a transaction that you use your accounting structure to record. The third step in any accounting software is to run reports. So once you've got your foundation laid and you've entered transactions, now you can actually pull some reports like an income statement or a balance sheet or a transaction list, anything to kind of glean some information from what's in your accounting software. So let's talk about the foundation first. So in this account section here, you've got a couple screens up here at the top, one of which is account list, and then you've got tags, starting balances, and budgeting. In the account list, you've also got a couple tabs here. But first, I'm going to talk about just the standard chart of accounts. So if you're familiar with an accounting software, this is where you're going to set up your categories that you would then use in transactions. So we have broken this down kind of from top to bottom into funds. So Aplos does fund accounting, which a fund is like almost like a mini organization within your larger total. A fund has its own balance, it's got its own income, its own expense, and even potentially its own assets and liabilities. So it's like its own separate thing that you're setting money aside for and need to track separately. And that's what we specialize in. So any one of those funds you would create here, that will then create an equity account for that fund. And then down here, you can go to the other areas of your chart of accounts, like your assets. In your assets, you can create an account group as well as the accounts that will be within that group. You can also have sub-accounts too. I think I have some sub-accounts set up right here in the expenses section. So you can have 5700.1, whatever you want to put there, as a sub-account to the parent. But any one of the types of accounts, you just click on it. You can add a group, or you can add an account by clicking this little black plus mark in the group's header, and then that will add an account for you. And then you've got your income and expenses. And the income and expenses can also be linked by default to a fund, so that if I know that every time I use this income account, it's automatically going to pull or put into this fund, I can set that. So then when I enter a transaction, I don't have to choose it every time. It's mainly convenience. You can always change the fund, but just shortens your entry time. Okay, so that's your chart of accounts. Just kind of going from left to right here, 1099s is how you would then set up if you need to issue 1099s at the end of the year. You would first need to enable it, but then what you do is you click on Manage 1099 Tags, and that will allow you to map your expense accounts to 1099 categories, so that now when you enter transactions and you record, utilities, utilities is mapped into the right category. So then if you paid, someone using that expense account, you can then generate a 1099 into the category that's applicable on the form. So if you need to do 1099s, we have a guide on that as well. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions, but that's there. We've also got account segments. So account segments is new. So for those of you who have been around, this is kind of the first new feature we're taking a look at here. And what an account segment is it's a way to kind of splice your chart of accounts in order to pull specific reports. So for instance, if I wanted to run like a transaction details on one of my assets, 3 of my income, and 5 of my expenses, for whatever reason, maybe there's a department or something in your organization that, only a couple of accounts really apply to them. So you want to run just, a quick little report on their specific accounts. You can do that through account segments. So you'd create a segment, you'd call it my, segment, whatever you want to call it, and then you would pick whatever accounts you want to be included on that segment. So here's my checking, and let's say I want to do missions income, and then I want to do Sunday morning donuts and rent, for whatever reason. Then I'd click add. That will then create the segment, and then in your reports, which we'll take a look at here in a little bit, you can run a filter on that segment. So if it's a transaction list, you can click on a transaction list, click that segment. It will then filter the report into only including those accounts that you have just set up. So again, just kind of a more detailed way to splice your chart of accounts in order to pull specific reports. All right. So that is your chart of accounts. Now, going back up just a little bit, I'm going to move from left to right this way as well. So you've got your account list, which we talked about here, and then you have tags. Now, tags is new as well, kind of new. We've got multiple layers of tags now so that you can, again, run more custom reports. And from left to right, we have fundraisers, projects, departments, custom, and then 990. These first 4 here, fundraisers, projects, departments, and custom, the purpose of this is for you to be able to kind of attach these tags to transactions in order to then filter on a report. So a fundraiser, for instance, is not a fund in and of itself, and it's not really an account. It's just something else that you're tracking in order to run like an income statement or a transaction list on it. So for instance, I would have a car wash fundraiser or a fireworks booth fundraiser. Each one of these fundraisers I can now tag onto a transaction so that I can then go to my reports, filter my reports by the car wash fundraiser, and now I see financial information specific to that particular fundraiser. So that can help you make financial decisions like, how profitable was this fundraiser, or should we do this again next year? Those are all reports and information you would need to pull, and the fundraisers tags helps you do that. And that kind of logic is applied to all of these. So same with projects. You'd set up a project that you're doing and create these tags and then tag the transactions, and then you can run a report on that project. Same with the department and same with custom. Now, all 4 of these can be used on a particular transaction as well. So you can have an expense that is for a particular department, as well as a project, as well as a fundraiser. So then on your report, you can drill down into what meets all of that criteria as well. These 3 categories, fundraisers, projects, departments, you can also rename. Now, here's where it gets kind of fun. So let's say you are a multi-site church. Okay, you have kind of one, admin kind of department, but you have, let's say, 3 campuses that your church meets on. You do, remote video, services or, whatever, but you want to track how profitable or kind of what expenses and income has been attributed to a particular campus. Okay, so you can rename this to campus. So I'm going to click rename down here. I can rename it to campus, and I can click update. So now these are campus tags. Go ahead and update. Where does it go? Maybe it's not working. Campus, update. Let's try a different one. Oops, campus, update. I'll get with our developers on that. That should be updating, but you can rename these. So let's just pretend that Fundraisers is now campus. So now if I record a transaction using my campus, I can tag that particular campus on all of my transactions so that for that campus, I can then pull a report on their specific financials. The church that I go to here in town has multiple campuses as well as departments. So they can run, a missions department report based on the, North campus. So again, just kind of a specific example of how you can use these tags to really, really drill down on specific reporting. So that's all I'm going to say on tags for now. Probably overloaded you, but if you have any questions, let me know. This is really kind of where a lot of the customization comes in with the advanced accounting. Okay. The other ones here, 990 tags, is a little bit more, I'd say rigid. This is more for the people that need to file the full form 990 at the end of the year. We don't have an e-file for that particular form, but what we do have here is these tags. So you would enable these tags and then click on the particular categories that match the 990, like grants and other assistance. And then you would tell it what accounts of yours are applicable to that category. So then now when I record a transaction using snacks, I would then have the option or the ability to assign a 990 tag to that transaction as well. So if through the year you've been using 990 tags and have been tagging all of your income and your expenses using the different categories that we've got here, then in the reports there is a 990 income statement report that you can run, and that will give you the information needed to file that 990 at the end of the year. Okay, so that's tags. Moving on from left to right, we've got starting balances. Starting balances is just kind of where you would put in how much money you've got when you're beginning Aplos. So if you've created your chart of accounts, and let's say you're starting Aplos as of January 1, 2016, you would go in here and enter the starting balances of what you had as of the year end 2015, and that will now be your starting place in Aplos. Every transaction that you enter will either add to or take away from these starting balances. So that's where you can set that. And then budgeting. So budgeting has been around for a while, but what we've added recently is budgeting by fund in this advanced accounting tier. So on your budgeting screen, you'd hit manage your budget. And here you can see kind of your overall total budget for the current year. And then where it says filter by fund, you can click that and toggle to either unassigned. So you can set a budget value that's not specific to a particular fund, or you can dive into a particular fund, like my general fund. So let's say I want to budget for my general fund. I would enter the budget values for 2016 for that particular fund. Then once I'm done, I can go into my building fund and then budget for that fund, and then go into my missions fund and budget for that fund. The total amounts, the total accounts budget will be the sum of all of these values that I've entered, like so. So this budget amount actually contains the budgets from all of my other funds. This is just the total. But now when I go to reports, I can run a budget by fund report, which will show me what's my fund, what did I budget for my fund, and then what are my actuals for that particular fund. Okay, so as you are budgeting by fund, you can also add some other information up here at the top, like a monthly breakdown. So if I wanted to, let's say, go to unassigned here. If I wanted to enter that I expect to receive, $10,000 in this particular income account, I can do that. And what it's going to do is automatically split that amount up over 12 months. But you can actually go in here and say, I expect to receive 5,000 here and 5,000 here, and then nothing for these months at all. Just how the year works. So that will make the total budget 10,000 still. The 5,000 is broken up into January and February, and now that is your budget value that you can compare on your reports. You can also show last year's budget if you've got one in Aplos, as well as this year's actuals to date, and then a 3-year budget as well. So if you wanted to budget for multiple years out, you can. Okay, so that is budgeting. Now that kind of concludes our kind of foundational area. So for those of you, again, who have been around Aplos for a while, the new stuff is account segments, multiple layers of tags, as well as budgeting by fund. Okay, so let's move on to transactions. So in the transactions section at the top, we have multiple entry screens that you guys can use for your organization. The first of which here is the register. The register is where you're going to record transactions for any what we call register account in Aplos. What that really means is it's an asset or liability that you want to be able to key in transactions for, and that has a running balance that you can see in Aplos. Typically, this is for bank accounts and credit cards. Okay, so in my register, I've got my account register, so I can switch between my checking and savings and credit card. And then below that, I can enter a new transaction as well as see a transaction history and a running balance. Now, here's where the fund accounting comes into play. So when I'm looking at this particular checking account, I can scroll down here and I can see all the transactions that it's hit. So that's great. But if I scroll down, it's actually going to show me that out of this $10,200 and change balance that I have, how is that split up among my funds? Well, again, 10,000 and change. If I scroll down, I can easily see that my building fund has a little over 1,000. My general fund has 4,400. My grant fund has 1,000. Missions fund has 3,700, and so on and so forth. However many funds that you have within that particular account, it'll show you the breakdown. So this can help you make very important and quick financial decisions. So someone comes to you and says, hey, from your missions department, we want to make this expense. Do we have money in the fund? You can go into checking and then go down to this little chart and say, yep, you've got this amount, so go for it, or whatever you want to answer them. So that is the register. Some other stuff that you can do here in the register is bank integration, which allows you to link Aplos with your financial institution in order to download transactions and then assign them and change their details. So it's more of a time-saving tool. So I would go in here and click Retrieve. So here's all the transactions that it brought down from my bank. I would then go through and select the income or expense account that this applies to, like bank fees, and then pick the fund, and they can also pick whatever tag I want. So this is for the fireworks, right? And then click Import. So that will then put that transaction into my register so that it updates my balance automatically. We've also got bank reconciliation. So this is a process that you guys would go through typically once a month or so. But what this basically does is it allows you to compare your bank statement that you get from the bank with the register record in Aplos to make sure that everything is present and accounted for, and that as of a certain date, your Aplos register balance and your bank balance was the same. So, at the end of March, if I'm supposed to have $10,000 in my bank, I can go through this reconciliation process, check off all the transactions that have occurred in March, with the idea being if everything's present and accounted for, I should have a $0 difference between my bank and my register, and I can click Finish Now, which will then lock down those transactions so that they can't be changed down the road. Okay, so that's bank rec. And then lastly, we have check printing, which allows you to print a check for any payment entered into the register or any bill owed in accounts payable. Sorry, I was highlighting the wrong one, accounts payable. Okay, so that's check printing. Moving from left to right, up here at the top, that was the register. All that stuff is all the register. And then we have journal entry, which is the standard debit and credit double entry accounting screen. There are a couple of other things you can do here, like a fund transfer. So if you want to move money from general fund to missions fund, you can do that here. You can also import payroll, which I'll give you guys a sneak peek. We are having we are getting pretty far down the pike with a payroll provider to do integrated payroll with Aplos. So hip, hip, hooray for that. That'll be coming pretty soon. But if you currently use ADP or PayCycle, feel free to import your export from them, and that should get all of the data up to date here in Aplos. But if you're familiar or comfortable or need to use the debit and credit screen, it's here. So feel free to use that. And then from left to right, we've got accounts payable and accounts receivable. So you can enter the bills that you owe but haven't paid yet. And then any money that is, an invoice that you've sent. So people owe you, but you haven't received the money yet. You can enter those receivables here and then manage them as well. And very soon, within the next couple of weeks, we will also be offering a way for you to receive payments of accounts receivable online, much like you do online donations. So stay tuned for that. So kind of the new feature that we've got here in the transactions section is this reoccurring transactions screen. This allows you to set up a reoccurring transaction or a reoccurring payable, reoccurring receivable is coming soon, or even a new alert. So what you would do here is basically click this plus button, call it a name. So I could say rent. let's say this is a reoccurring transaction that happens every month. I want this to happen monthly on the 3rd of the month. And then I want this to come out of my checking, and then I would enter the information. So management company, rent, I would enter the check number, payment. So let's say it's $1,000 a month. And then I would select the expense account. So let's go down here to rent, general fund, and 1,000. So what that does is it sets up a reoccurring schedule. So now on the 3rd of every month, this reoccurring transaction will automatically post into my register using this payee, that comment, and that amount. Okay. And again, you can do that with payables as well. Receivables is coming. Or if you didn't want us to actually post the transaction, you just want to create a reminder of sorts, you can do this to create a new alert. So let's say rent again. I want this to happen monthly on the 3rd, and pay rent is my comment. So I'd click add. So that adds the alert. So now monthly on the 3rd, if I go to my dashboard, that will add as an alert right here. So you can have a little reminder of what you need to do. Okay. So that is reoccurring transactions. So that basically covers kind of the high level ways that you would create a foundation for your accounting in Advanced Aplos, as well as what the new features are. Budgeting by fund, reoccurring transactions, account segments, and multiple layers of custom tags. So let's quickly walk through reporting. Reporting is new as well. So in the reporting section, you guys who have been with Aplos for a while might be used to this, but we have now changed it to this. So now you've got more robust and expanded reports, and we've added some features to the reports as well, which makes it more convenient. So for the most part, you just pick what type of report you want to run. So here's like the income statement reports. So here's a standard income statement. You can also do an income statement by fund, by custom tag, again here now by fundraiser, project, or department. All of those levels of tags are available here in the income statement section as well as the transaction list section. So I'd pick a report here, let's say income statement by fund. So I'm going to pick that. And if it's split by fund or by tag, what it actually does is it creates a separate report within this screen for each fund or tag. So you can see here, here's my income statement for my building fund. So here's all my information. Let's do this year. Might get some more stuff on there. So here's my income statement for my building fund. If I scroll down here, I can click on this little expansion button and now see an income statement for my general fund. Same with my grant fund, and same with my missions fund. You can also do some other filters up here. So if I wanted to filter by fund and only see one or two of them, I can. Or if I wanted to change the layout and maybe include zero balances as well as subaccounts and subtotal by group and change the accounting basis from accrual to cash, I can do that and click apply. And now that changes the report to match those parameters that I want. Now here's kind of the new stuff. So now I can either download this, and I can download that as an XLS, CSV, which are all fancy ways of saying Excel, or PDF. But what I can also do is click share. Now if I share this report, I can select what format, so the fancy terms for Excel here, or PDF, and I can enter the email who I want to send this to. So I'm going to send this to alex@aplos.com. And I want to CC tim@aplos.com. And I want to BCC someone else. There's Tim, so he just added as a contact. So you can add a BCC, you can change the subject as well as the text, but then click share. So then that will send an email to that person. You can also separate people by comma and add a new person in. So, Eric@aplos.com. Enter as many people as you want. That report will then email to those people, and they can download the file and view the report. Okay, so it's kind of a new, cool sharing feature that we've got there. So back to the main screen of reports. Again, we've got the income statement here. We've got the balance sheet. Balance sheet you can compare by fund, and then you can also compare a balance sheet by different funds as well. You can also run the budgeting reports here. So budgeting by fund, show you that. So this again kind of splits it by fund, but you can see the actuals, the year-to-date budget, and then the difference for each particular fund that you have set up. So here's my, general fund budget. And then you've also got some other reports here too, monthly income statements, comparative income statements, as well as a trial balance and a statement of cash flows. And then down here is kind of detail or research type reports. So here's kind of your financial section. Here's more of detail or research things. So general ledger, for those of you who have been around, this is new. We've changed this. So general ledger is now the double entry screen. We're changing this to debit and credit here within the next week or two as well. But it shows all the splits. So instead of just a transaction list, which shows just the one side of the entry for each account, this one will show you all sides of the entry for every account. So that's fun. We also have a journal entry report, which we're going to be changing up here pretty soon to be listed by journal entry, but for now it just lists by account. And then you've got transaction list by, again, all levels of custom tag and fund and account, and then bank reconciliation, aged payables and receivables, income by contact, and expense by payee. And we also have the donations report down here at the bottom as well. For any one of these reports, when you click on it, you can customize it and then save it. So that will save as a custom report and title name. And then up at the top, you can also click this little star next to the reports that you generate often, and that will add them to your favorites or quick access section up here. So you don't have to dig through the list to find what you need. Okay. And that is reporting. So the last thing I kind of forgot to touch on here was the donation side. So I've covered basically all of the accounting features here for advanced accounting. So let's take a quick look at donations. When you click on donations, you've got this little drop-down menu here as well. The first category here is purposes. So if you use Aplos for your donations management, so you want to record who's given to you and give them contribution statements throughout the year, you can set up purposes, which is kind of like your chart of accounts, but for donations. So these are the different categories or reasons why people are giving you money. So I would set up like my general. So if someone's going to hand me $10, I want this to go to my general or my building or my missions or my spring fundraiser. Any reason why people are handing you money, create a purpose for that. Now, what you can also do is link these purposes to your income account and fund so that we create a donations entry, a contributions record, so that when the person sees their contribution statement, they'll see, spring fundraiser. But if the spring fundraiser needs to go to the missions income account and missions fund, that's where you would set that. So you would set the income account and fund here so that we know when you post a contribution using this purpose, we need to create an accounting entry on the back end using these details, which we do automatically. So you create those purposes, and then you can either set up online donations so that you can add these forms to your website so people can donate to you online, or you can enter a batch of contributions here in the contributions entry screen. So like Sunday's donations, I'll enter the date. Here's the donations batch name, which is basically just a title for what's included here in the batch. So then I would record the donors. So here's the donor information of Alex. He donated with the check number 1000. Here's the purpose that he donated to, as well as the amount. And then once I've added everybody in, I can select what checking account or what cash account I want this batch to be deposited into, and then click post. So that then creates, again, the donation record. It also creates the accounting entry split by the different income accounts that you've got set up using the purposes. And now in my reports or my contacts, I can go to those people and I can generate a contribution statement whenever I want. Okay, right here, donations by contact. Alrighty, so that is a very relatively quick and high-level tour of Aplos Advanced Accounting. One last thing I want to touch on here is the pricing structure, again, just as a reminder. So in settings and subscription, you can see how much this package costs. So for single user advanced accounting, it is $120 per month, again, for single user. And that includes every single thing that we've touched on here today. All of the accounting stuff, all that donation stuff for one user. If you need multiple users, so anywhere from 2 to 200 people that have access to log into your software and see your financial information, that adds $80 per month, and that is for unlimited. So not per user, but unlimited. So you can see here that my total monthly cost is now $200, and that is for multi-user advanced accounting through Aplos. Okay. Now I mentioned earlier that we have fixed assets and cost allocations coming as well. That will add a fourth tier to our accounting, which will be, I don't know, total accounting, or we got some name cooked up. That's marketing's deal. Not sure what we're going to call it yet, but that will add another accounting tier as well that will have fixed assets, cost, or really just transaction allocations, as well as some other stuff that we're going to be putting in there too. So stay tuned for that. Alrighty. Okay, well, what I'd like to do now is open it up for some question and answer time. I do notice that we've got a couple questions in here already, so I'm going to mute myself for just a couple of minutes and let you guys submit any questions that you might have. Feel free to use that question field, and then I'll be back to answer those here in just a minute. Okay, be right back. Okay, well, feel free to keep shooting through those questions. I'm just going to start going down the list here. So the first couple of things I've noticed in the questions I touched on, but let me know if you'd like me to go back. But creating a budget by tag, that is coming. So right now we could budget by fund, but budgeting by tag. So you do a fundraiser or project or something, and you want to have a little budget there. That is coming probably within the next month or two. Okay. Can you upload prior year data from other software to Aplos? You can. We have an import kind of path designed for QuickBooks, and then we have done other softwares as well, but I will just be completely honest and say that we do not recommend it. Reason being is we have a fund accounting software, and most people are coming from a non-fund accounting software. And even if you're coming from another fund accounting software, most likely they've got some sort of structure set up that's different than us. So we've done it. There have been success stories, but just being real upfront here, it's not necessarily the best way to get started in Aplos, just because it could, not really work as well from the other system being dumped into us. I use the joke often that it's kind of like when I was in high school and I wanted to cheat on a Spanish assignment. I would get the paragraph that I needed to translate or whatever and just plug it into the online translator, and then it spits out. But my teacher didn't like that because apparently it's not that good of a translation. That's kind of what's happening. You take one language, you try to translate it into another, doesn't always work. So that's kind of why I recommend just starting fresh in Aplos. So that way we can help you get a really fund accounting tailored chart of accounts set up so that you've got good structure and good bones for the foundation starting out. Then you would enter your starting balances as of maybe the beginning of the year, and then go from there. Your old system and your old reports can be there for reference, but that way going forward in Aplos, it's a little bit better designed and easier to use. But that is my soapbox. The short answer to that question is yes. So if you're coming from another software, feel free to let us know, and we can help you get that figured out. Okay. So here's a couple of things. Can budgets be broken down by month? Yeah, in the budgeting, there is a way to show the monthly breakdown so that you can kind of split your budget up by month differently than just dividing the total by 12. Can you combine tags in the financial statements? So you can run a report right now. Let's say you wanted to do fundraisers, right? You can do an income statement by fundraiser. And what that does is it breaks each fundraiser down into its own income statement or transaction list, whatever the report is. So this splits it. We are looking into ways to change the filters here so that you can filter by multiple tags at a time. So for instance, if I wanted to see an income statement that was for my missions department and my car wash fundraiser, two different kinds of tags. Right now, they're two different reports. There's an income statement for the department and one for the fundraiser. But we are looking at ways to do that kind of combo filter so that you can really splice down. So that's coming. We're thinking through that at the moment. Can you link the purposes to an accounting tag? Not at the moment, and the reason for that is the tag is kind of on the accounting side. So the accounting entry that's created could have the tag applied. So, for instance, if I could go into that contribution entry here in my register, I can apply a tag once the transaction has been posted. But I assume it wouldn't be too much work for us to add the custom tag or, project and all that kind of stuff to the purposes. We just haven't at the moment. So I'll take a note of that and see if that's maybe something we can do for you. But are custom reports saved by person, or do they all appear for authorized Aplos users? Yeah, so you've had some issues with that. So yeah, they are right now saved to anyone that has access to that particular type of report. For instance, we've got user permissions that allow you to look at the accounting side of stuff, but not the donation side of stuff. So if you have saved a report that's a donations report and someone logs in that doesn't have access to the donation side of things, then they won't see that report. But for 5 different users that have access to accounting, they can all see that saved accounting report. We have thought about different ways that we can add maybe some permissions or something there. Just haven't figured out the right way to do it, but it's a good suggestion, Jane. Lydia, can you have view-only users? Yes. When you create a user, you will give them a role. Users. You will give them a role permission, which gives them access to certain things. So administrator has access to everything. They can do whatever they want. A manager full suite has access to the entire software, but excludes settings. So they can't see users. They can't change the subscription, but they can do all accounting and donations related things. We also have an accounting manager and a donations manager. So this lets them read and write, but specific to a product. So if I just want someone to handle the financial side of things, they're an accounting manager. If they're only handling the donation side of things, they're a donations manager. And then we have read-only auditor versions of all of those as well. So here's the auditor for full suite, which again includes everything except for settings, but it's read-only, and then accounting auditor, which is read-only access to the accounting. We also have a couple other roles here, contact manager and donor relations manager, which donor relations is another product that we have that we didn't talk about here today. But yeah. Let's see. What about multiple subsidiaries or branches? Say we have multiple churches in different states, each with separate accounting to be consolidated for reporting purposes. That is a fantastic question, Francisco, and one that I will answer briefly now, but I do want to follow up with you about. We have a product that is different than what we looked at here today called Oversight. Oversight is exactly what Francisco is talking about. It allows you to have one kind of parent account with multiple subsidiary organizations from it. So if you are for instance, we have an organization in Georgia for the Georgia State Parks. Okay, so they have kind of one parent oversight, but each state park needs its own accounting, but they're one organization, right? So what this oversight allows them to do is have 50 chapters set up. So each one has its own subscription cost, its own login, its own users, its own financial data, it's its own thing, but oversight has access to all 50 of those. They can also choose to pay the invoice for all of them to do consolidated billing, as well as locking down the chart of accounts for consolidated reporting as well. So the Georgia State Parks example, they have 50 plus chapters, but it's one nonprofit, so they need to file one tax return. So they've got a consolidated chart of accounts, or a locked down chart of accounts, so everything rolls up to the oversight reporting. But yeah, that can be tailored for bookkeeping companies. It can be tailored for CPAs, for multi-chapters, for multi-site churches. Yeah, we can definitely help you with that, Francisco. So if you'll do me maybe a favor, if you don't mind, my email is Alex, ALEX, @aplos.com. And that's not a mystery. Anybody can email me, feel free. But if you want to just send me an email, I'll do my best to follow up after the webinar as well. But we can schedule a time for us to chat more about that with Michelle, who's our VP of Sales as well. Okay, let's see. So is pricing going to be a barrier for those looking into its products as alternatives? It's possible. We definitely considered that. Intuit is... QuickBooks is like synonymous with accounting software. So, we get that. So yes, Intuit is a lot cheaper than our advanced accounting. But as we were looking at the competition and what it offers, Intuit, the packages that they offer don't do what we just showed. So there are very, very specific nonprofit accounting things like fund accounting in general, as well as budgeting by fund and running reports by fund. That's all very specific to what we offer. Intuit does not do any of that, as well as doing the multiple layers of tags. That's something that they don't do. So when we were looking at the competition, we really found that there's a couple of other what they call mid-market solutions. So not really small to medium organizations, but starting to get a little bit bigger, usually an operating budget of $1 million to $10 million. The softwares that they were looking at, like Sage and whatnot, we are actually very low pricing compared to what they've got. So yeah, it was definitely, for those of you who have been around a while, the pricing decision for us was an awkward one, because we've been charging, anywhere from $10 to $30 for years. And so pricing something at, $200 felt weird, but what we're seeing is it's very fair compared to what the competition is out there. So yeah, I don't know. It's that's all I really have to say on that. It's kind of an awkward end to that answer, but let me know if that makes sense. Can you enter segments or tags in fundraising transactions? Well, so accounting segment is something that you set up to run a report on. It's not really something that you enter like per transaction, but yeah, when you're entering, a transaction for a fundraiser, if you've got the fundraiser tags set up, then you would then tag that transaction. Let me show you how to do that. Go to that transaction. Here's the tag. Let me get rid of this. You'd enter the tag here, and you'd click the fundraiser for, car wash. So then whatever transaction I'm entering here will then have the tag of car wash. So when I go to my reports and run my fundraiser report, that transaction shows up underneath that tag. Okay. Let's see. Can you get the advanced accounting without the donations module? No, the donations module is there. You don't have to use it though, Lydia. So if you want the advanced accounting, it just automatically comes with the donation side. But feel free to just ignore it. You can primarily exist here in the accounting world, and don't worry about purposes. Don't worry about contributions or online forms. Just forget that drop down's there, and you can still take advantage of all the accounting features. Can you get a total by multiple custom tags? I answered that one a little bit earlier. We're working on a way to apply multiple tag filters to one report, but right now it's a separate report per tag, if that makes sense. Are there any of the more advanced actions that will be updated in the basic version? Well, the ones that we touched on here today, like reoccurring transactions, tags, budgeting by fund, and account segments, those are all for the advanced tier. And then cost allocations, fixed assets, those will be in the upper tier as well. But if you'll allow me to get on another soapbox, we by no means are abandoning the product that we've had for years. So those of you who have been around for a long time, our heart is still to provide that simple and affordable solution for nonprofits and churches. And that's definitely where we will continue to exist. We just wanted to offer an upper kind of echelon for larger organizations as well. But yeah, those features that we talked about here today are specific to the advanced ones, but the starter and the standard packages will continue to be updated, supported, and improved for the duration of our lifetime. So we kind of, development cycle wise, we don't have anything planned at the moment. I mean, there's a number of features. I mean, Tim, we've talked multiple times. I've got a list a mile long of what we would love to add to the software, but right now we're working on kind of buttoning up the advanced sections, and then we'll probably move into some enhancements into the starter and standard packages as well. So if there's anything specific you guys want to see there, then feel free to let me know, and yeah, we can definitely consider it. Can you track different gift designations such as sponsors, donations, ticket sales, auction proceeds? Kind of the way to do that right now, Julia, would be through using a specific purpose. We don't necessarily have parameters set up for donations outside of purposes, like ticket or event registrations or sponsors, anything like that. But if you created a purpose for sponsors or donations or ticket sales, you can use that purpose when recording a contribution, rather. So, yeah. Let me know if that helps, Julia. And by the way, it's kind of a 5-minute warning. So if there's any in accounting mode, if there are any questions that I don't get to here today, then I will follow up with you later on today. And as well, if you guys ever have any questions, feel free to email support@aplos.com, or since we're hanging out here today, feel free to email me directly. Be happy to answer your questions as well, alex@aplos.com. But let's see if I can get through these real quick. Are you going to offer a trial period for users to test out? Yeah, so I forgot to mention that. When you record, I'm still in accounting mode. When you register for a free trial, there is a 15-day free trial that you can have no matter what product you're looking at here. So starter, standard, advanced, feel free to take a look. That will start you with a 15-day free trial automatically. And if you need more time, just let us know. It's fine. Can you combine accounts for financial statements, like combining all cash accounts into a single line? Well, kind of. If the accounts already exist, then no, there's not really a way to say, hey, combine these 4 into one account. But what you can do is set these 4 up as sub-accounts. So if, for instance, I wanted, one account that was, just for sake of example, cash. Uses register, I can set up cash, and then I can pull these accounts that already exist, kind of over indented here, to be sub-accounts of that one particular account. So on a report, if I show sub-accounts, it'll show each one of these with their own separate totals. Or if I don't show sub-accounts, they'll all roll up here into the parent account. I don't know, depending on the situation, I might not recommend that. Another way that you can kind of get that same information without having to do sub-accounts is through the groups. So like here is current assets. This is my group. And then these 4 accounts are in this group. On the reports, you can also subtotal by group. So if I wanted to call this cash, then I can go to my reports like a balance sheet, and I can say subtotal by group, and that will then roll up the totals of all 4 of these into that particular group. I like, again, it just kind of depends on your structure, and it's matter of opinion, basically. But I like doing the groups because it doesn't muddle your account structure. So you don't have just random accounts that exist for sub, purposes. But anyways, hopefully that answers your question there. In the donation side, do you offer subscriptions? Subscriptions like someone has a subscription to you and then are paying you on a monthly or, annual basis. Kind of. I mean, you can use the donation side to record that, but there's no real way to set up a unique subscription, at least at this point. Maybe the closest thing to that would be through the accounts receivable module on the accounting side. You can create accounts receivable here, and you can do a multiple customers thing. So if at the first of the year, every month, you want to send out invoices to all of your subscribers, you can create a template and then send that out. And again, we're going to add a way to receive these payments online here pretty soon as well. So that's probably a way that you can better manage membership or subscription in Aplos. Julia, the purpose is really just anything. So when someone hands you, $10 for a donation of any kind, that can be whatever. So that can be a ticket sale, that can be a donation, that can be really anything. I mean, a purpose can be anything you want it to be. Yeah. So subscriptions are monthly commitments people make become AR until paid. Yeah. So yeah, Francisco, I would recommend using accounts receivable then to set that up. Okay. By the way, I like your videos. Great. Yeah. So last question here that I see is, can you send me a link to this recording? Yes, this has been recording the whole time, even with all of my mess ups and rambles and all that stuff. So all of this will be available here pretty soon. Once, how that flow usually works is I finish, I'll give the recording to our video guy. He'll make it look pretty, put it on YouTube, and then we'll email it. So I guess, the short answer to that one as well is yes. Probably will be available by the end of the week. So, yeah, we'll make sure to get that out to you. But okay, well, I think I've gotten through all the questions. There were a number of them, but hopefully I've answered everybody's questions. Again, if I didn't get to something, or if you have, something that you think of later, feel free to email me directly at alex@aplos.com. That is ALEX@APLOS.com. Or if you don't care to hear from me personally, you can just email support@aplos.com, or when you're logged into the software, click this little question mark here in the bottom right, and that will open up a chat to where you can have a conversation with our support team. Whoever's available first wins, and we'll get you squared away. And all of our support is free. I don't know if I mentioned that, but no matter what kind of tier of accounting you use, all of our support is free. So enjoy that. Okay, well, thank you guys for showing up today. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I hope that today's content was helpful. Again, if you have any questions, let us know, but we will talk to you later. All right, thanks for using Aplos. And one more thing, sorry, before I go, I have been told to plug the social media side of things. Sorry. So if you are a Twitter user and you want to kind of give us a shout out and let us know how we did here today with the webinar, feel free to use the hashtag Aplos webinar. That is hashtag Aplos webinar. No spaces, no capitals, no nothing. Just APLOS WEBINAR, Aplos webinar. Give us a shout out. Okay, thanks for showing up. Appreciate you taking the time, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.